Moved by Councillor Rolla, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Resolved that the regular meeting commence at the hour of 7 p.m. And be it further resolved that Council acknowledges that we're meeting in the Robinson Superior Tree area on lands that have been traditionally used by several Indigenous nations. But we would like to pay special recognition to our closest Indigenous neighbours, the communities of Bitigan, Anishinaabe, and Bic-Mobra First Nations. We wish to recognize the long history of the First Nations and Métis people in our region specifically and show respect to them today. All in favor? I'll call the meeting to order. There are no additions to or deletions to the agenda. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? None. Move the approval of the minutes. Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Scampanella. Resolved that the agenda be approved as circulated. All in favor? Next item is a presentation from E4M, and could you introduce her?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm pleased to introduce Colleen Hannigan from E4M, which is our Integrity Commissioner, and Ms. Hannigan has a report to share with us this evening. I'll turn it over to you, Colleen.
Thank you very much, and good evening, Mayor Peckern and councillors. As mentioned, I'm Colleen Hannigan, and I will be reading one Integrity Commissioner report tonight into the minutes of tonight's meeting. The report will then be forwarded tomorrow morning to the CAO for distribution as a public document. Before I start, I'd like to give you just a very brief background of how I ended up at your table tonight. And I have over 30 years of experience in local and provincial government in both Ontario and British Columbia. I recently retired from 10 years as a CAO of a small municipality of about 1,800 people in the interior of British Columbia. I still do some planning consulting work for that municipality. I'm a registered professional planner and a member of the Canadian Institute for Planners, and I spent 15 years in various departments with the town of Huntsville, Ontario, where I was born and raised, and I spent the next 15 years in British Columbia, and now my husband and I currently reside on Manitoulin Island, and obviously I'm still looking for a time. So I came on board with E4M because there was such a backlog that had accumulated, I think, a lot to do with COVID perhaps, and so I'm here to help Peggy with catching up on all of her reports. And tonight I may summarize some parts of the report. I will read most of it because I believe this is the first report you've had presented to Council as a whole. So I will continue on with the business of tonight's report. And E4M received a request for, with respect to bylaw 2019-07, which is the Township of Manitowoc Code of Conduct, and an application for inquiry with respect to the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, the MCIA, from a member of the public who is referred to in this report as the requester, the applicant, and who alleged that Councillor Jim Moffat, and I will just refer to him as Councillor Moffat, contravened the MCIA and the Code of Conduct by his actions at the May 12, 2021 Council meeting. The requester applicant alleged, first, that on May 12th, Councillor Moffat participated in a council discussion and vote on an agenda item without declaring a pecuniary interest. That Councillor Moffat had a direct and indirect pecuniary interest he did not declare, and that Councillor Moffat did not leave the closed session of council while this discussion occurred. More specifically, the requester alleged that Councillor Moffat contravened Section 1.2c and Section 13.2 of the Code of Conduct and Sections 5.1 and 5.2 of the MCIA. This occurred when he participated in the debate and vote on the matter before council in which he had a pecuniary interest. The requester applicant alleged that Councillor Moffat ought not to have participated in a matter debated in closed session related to the conditions of sale placed on the property when sold by the Township of Manitowoc. The Integrity Commissioner's Office findings and conclusions are as follows. We find that Councillor Moffat did not contravene the MCIA. We will not be making an application to court with respect to our finding. If the applicant disagrees with our finding, they can make an application to court at their own expense and to seek redress. Additionally, we find that Councillor Moffat did not contravene the Code of Conduct. Based on our findings, the request and the application are dismissed. And just to explain, the request always refers to, it's a request for an inquiry, it refers to the Code of Conduct, and an application is in relation to the MCIA. So the process that we followed is, upon the receipt of the application, we completed an initial review of the statutory declaration and the accompanying materials submitted by the requester applicant. Upon finding the application properly considered by us, we conducted a preliminary review of the allegations to determine if there was sufficient grounds to conduct a full inquiry. The matters were assigned to Sean Mahoney, the investigator. He's with the Investigative Solutions Network, ISN, as an agent of the Integrity Commissioner's Office, to crystallize the complaint and to interview the parties and the witnesses. The investigator interviewed a number of witnesses, including the requester applicant and the respondent. The following bylaws and policies and other material related to the allegations were considered. The Township of Manitowoc's Code of Conduct, of course, the principles upon which this code is based, which is Section 1.2c, Section 13.2, which is no improper use of influence, and the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. The sections are 5.1, where a member, either on his own or her own behalf, or while acting for, by, with, or through another, has a pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in any matter, and is present at a meeting of council at which the matter is the subject of consideration, the members shall, prior to any consideration of the matter in the meeting, disclose the interest and the general nature thereof, not take part in the discussion of or vote on any question in respect of the matter, and shall not attempt in any way, whether before, during, or after the meeting, to influence the voting on any such question. The next section we looked at was where the member is to lead a closed session, closed meeting, and also the written statement of disclosure that's required now through the MCIA, that the member has to file the written statement of interest, as you are all aware of, I'm sure. The final section of the MCIA we considered was 5.21, and this is the influence section, where a member shall not use his or her office in any way to attempt to influence any decision or recommendation that results from consideration of the matter. Also, there's an exception to this. If council is considering a penalty, the respondent may attempt to influence the penalty decision by stating their case to council. So they do have an opportunity to speak to council once the decision is brought forward, should there be a penalty recommended by the Integrity Commissioner's Office. They do not vote on it, however, of course. We looked at the Conflict of Interest Declaration. We looked at the regular council meeting agenda and minutes for May 12th and 2021, and also the signed offer to purchase, including the Schedule A conditions of sale. The investigator looks at the conclusions he arrives at with respect to these matters. They're based on a standard of balance of probabilities. Now, balance of probabilities is a civil burden of proof, meaning that there's evidence to support the allegation that the comments or conduct, more likely than not, so only 50.1% is necessary, took place, and that the behavior is a breach of the Code of Conduct. As required, assessments of credibility have been made, and these assessments are based on whether or not the individual has first-hand knowledge of the situation, whether or not the individual had an opportunity to observe the events, whether or not the individual may have a bias or other motive, the individual's ability to clearly describe the events, consistency within the story, the attitude of the individual as they are participating, any admission of dishonesty. And the investigator in this case found all parties interviewed to be credible. Now, the findings of fact, on May 12th, At the council meeting, the agenda said there was a request from a property owner to address a condition of sale related to a property which was purchased from the township in 2020, called the subject property. The owner of the subject property requested that council extend the time frame related to the condition, and council debated the matter on May 12, 2021. Council meeting and decided against the owner's request. Councillor Moffat attended the May 12th council meeting and participated in the debate held in the portion of the meeting closed to the public and voted on the matter. Council decided not to deviate from the original condition of sale. Matters considered by council in a closed meeting are confidential in nature, and we will not disclose the content of the deliberations. We will advise that the subject property is a multi-residential property that needs repairs and is not currently being rented. The requester applicant alleged that because Councillor Moffat owns property in the township of Manitowoc that he rents out, he has a financial interest in the owner's request to extend the time frame of the condition. Councillor Moffat was elected to office in 2018, and this is his first term as councillor. Councillor Moffat is self-employed and operates Jim Moffat Enterprises Limited. Jim Moffat Enterprises Limited is a multifaceted company which earns income from several businesses: snow removal services, distribution services for bakery, operation of a retail convenience store, owning and renting of houses, short-term rentals through Airbnb, and the property management services for a large multi-residential apartment building. In our analysis, we considered whether Councillor Moffat had a direct, indirect, or deemed pecuniary interest when council debated the owner's request, whether Councillor Moffat complied with the MCIA, whether to make an application to court for breach of the MCIA, and whether or not Councillor Moffat can contravene the code of conduct. With respect to the MCIA, councillors are prohibited from influencing matters where they have a pecuniary interest before, after, or during the meeting. Additionally, the MCIA requires a councillor from participating in a meeting closed to the public if they have a pecuniary interest in the matter councillors considering during closed meeting, and they must leave the closed meeting. Pecuniary interest is not defined in the MCIA, however, and the courts have interpreted it to mean a financial, monetary, or economic interest. It does not matter whether the financial interest is positive or negative, and when considering the existence of a pecuniary interest, it does not matter the quantum of the interest. At the May 12, 2021 council meeting, council debated a matter in closed session related to the conditions placed on the sale of the land. The subject property has a multi-residential building on it that must be either revitalized or torn down, and the owner had a specified time frame to advise council of their intention. To be clear, the subject property is currently vacant and has been described as unsuitable for habitation. Furthermore, as a condition of sale, the owner must decide if the structure will be renovated to a rentable estate or demolished. Councillor Moffat does not have an ownership share in the subject property, or a business relationship with its owner. To be clear, the company operated by Councillor Moffat does not have a financial investment in the subject property, nor does Councillor Moffat have a personal financial investment in the subject property. Additionally, the owner has not requested that Councillor Moffat invest in the subject property or any other enterprise of the owner. Councillor Moffat's company does provide rental accommodation and property management services. Councillor Moffat would have a pecuniary interest in matters before council that would affect his business finances. Put differently, there would have to be evidence that the decision before council would cause Councillor Moffat to gain or lose tenants or property management contracts. The matter debated and decided on at the council meeting on May 12 dealt with the request to extend the amount of time the owner had to comply with the condition of sale, requiring a decision to demolish or renovate. There's no evidence before us that demonstrates that Councillor Moffat has a financial or economic interest in the decision. We find that Councillor Moffat did not have a prohibited pecuniary interest with the matter before council on May 12, 2021, and was not required to comply with Section 5 of the MCIA. With respect to the Code of Conduct, we have further considered the requester applicant's allegations in the context of the Code. Section 13 provides that a member may not use their position to influence a decision to gain a private advantage, and we find that Councillor Moffat's participation in the May 12th closed session of the council meeting did not represent a gain in private advantage, and therefore is not a contravention of the Code of Conduct. And that's the report that I have before me, Mr. Mayor, and happy to entertain a general question if I can, and if not, take it back to our office.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No, I think that's pretty clear, and thank you very much for it.
You're very welcome.
I was going to say, thank you for being so thorough.
Yes. Moved by Councillor Scampanella, seconded by Councillor Councillor Rowley. Sorry. Resolved that the presentation provided by Colleen Hennon from E4M, Integrity Commissioner for the Township of Manitouwadge, regarding the Integrity Commissioner's Inquiry Public Report, allegations that Councillor Moffat contravened the Code of Conduct of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, be received, and be it further resolved that Council thanks Colleen Hannigan from E4M for attending and providing the update to Council. All in favor? Thank you. And thank you very much for your presentation. Moved by Councillor Rolla, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting held on January 26, 2022 are adopted as circulated. All in favor? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Scampanella, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Resolved that correspondence items 08-0108-04 be received. Do we want to bring any of them down? Are we okay? Be received and filed. All in favor? Thank you. There are no petitions. Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Rolla. Resolved the minutes of the meeting of the Thunder Bay District Board of Health held December 15, 2021 be accepted as received. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Scampanella, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Resolved that the minutes of the meetings of the Manitouwadge Public Library Board held December 6, 2020 may be accepted as received. All in favor? Thank you. And next item is a verbal update with our CAO.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I have some updates for Council. We have received 1,900 of our rapid antigen test kits. We are expecting the 10,000 kits to arrive in 3 shipments. So we've received the first shipment, and we have distributed the full 1,900 test kits. So we are continuing to take applications, and we'll contact residents when the next shipment arrives, which we anticipate will be next week. We are getting a good response from the community, and I would say at the moment we have applications for about 3,000 of the test kits. So, and the applications come in stacks every day. So people are definitely interested in receiving these. So that was a really great opportunity for us to be able to assist the community in this way. Just a reminder to residents that when they're completing the applications, that they are required to provide proof of residency. It's not only for us to confirm that the residents of Manitouwadge are receiving the test kits, but also for audit purposes, and at any time the auditors can ask for the files. And so we have to be able to prove that the residents of Manitouwadge received these kits, and we do that by confirming that they are a resident with their address on either the driver's license or a utility bill. So it's important that that accompanies the application to speed up the process. So we do have a number of applications where we have to follow up with the resident to get that information from them. So that just delays the process for us and for them. There is a vaccine clinic scheduled in Manitouwadge for February the 17th. We are still hearing of positive cases in Manitouwadge, so a reminder to all residents to please stay home if you're not feeling well, and to use your rapid antigen tests to confirm whether you have COVID or not. And it is also recommended that you provide that information to the hospital so that we can keep a good eye on the number of positive cases in the community and be able to communicate that to the residents. From the fire department, Dawn is currently doing interviews for the deputy fire chief, so we are looking forward to the outcome of that in the coming weeks. Recreation is currently interviewing for a new programmer, and we also anticipate that that decision will be made in the coming weeks as well. Frosty Days starts next week, and the schedule of events has gone out to the community. It should be in the mailboxes tomorrow. Starts on Friday, February the 18th at the Kawisa Ski Center at 6:30, and the Citizen of the Year will be announced then, as well as a sliding party and a ski night. The following days have public skating, and then everyone's favorite event, the cardboard box races on Sunday afternoon at the ski hill, and that starts at 12:30. Public Works has been challenged over the past few weeks by weather. Cold and warmer temperatures have played havoc with our water lines, water main breaks, service line breaks, and then trying to manage all the snow accumulation that we've had. So a big kudos and thank you to the staff at Public Works and to the residents for their patience in all these ups and downs that we've had. And the Boreal newsletter is getting a lot of positive feedback. The residents are very happy with the additional information that we're able to provide, and we are printing more and more copies every month that we put it out. Residents who've signed up for My Manitouwadge will receive it in their email inbox, but we do have residents who like the paper copy and have requested us to provide more copies to both grocery stores as well as the library. And then we have residents who pick up copies and distribute to their friends as well. So that's been great, and I'd like to thank the whole team for their input into the development of the Boreal, as well as to Tammy Burbage, who's compiling it and putting it all together and getting it out at the beginning of each month. So that's been a great opportunity for us to improve our communication to the residents. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Moved by Councillor Roll, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Resolved that Council is in receipt of Administration Report FB 2022-01 submitted by Don Kruger, Fire Chief, regarding the Fire Chief's monthly report, January 2022. You're on, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is obviously my first monthly report. I'm not going to read through the entire report. I will answer any questions if anybody has any questions. And just to further what the CAO said there. We completed 2 interviews earlier this week for the deputy chief position. We have 1 more interview to do early next week. And so by the next council meeting, I will have a motion to put forth to council for you to approve a new deputy fire chief for the township. So if there's any questions on the first monthly report, I'll be happy to answer those.
I think part of the report I read that you also have new recruits that have started. And
Yes.
how close does that bring you to the goal number?
So this, we have 3 new recruits that will be starting this week, depending on their work schedules. That will put us up to, I believe, 18 members. I have another interview scheduled for Friday afternoon with somebody that had left the fire department and has expressed an interest to come back. And I've been told that there are a number of other people that are in similar situations. I'm just waiting for those people to reach out. So I don't know what the historical cap has been for the fire department as far as numbers, but hopefully within a month or maybe 2 months, we might be up to 21, 22, 23 maybe. I would like to get somewhere close to 30, provided that council's okay with that, and we'll see how that goes.
That's great news.
Anything else? No?
Okay, yeah, we have another one, so I'll go to
Yes.
this one first. And council, and be it further resolved that upon conclusion of council's review and consideration, that council receives the fire chief's monthly report as presented. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Campanello. Resolved that council is in receipt of administration report FB 2022-02 submitted by Don Kruger, fire chief, regarding a municipal fire protection agreement.
So this is, the MNRF does agreements with local municipalities in the north for fire protection. Here they do a 5-year agreement, so it would start in April 1st of this year and carry on until March 31st of 2027. The purpose of this is not only to provide fire protection for forest firefighting, but also assist the municipality with cost. Again, I'm not going to read through the entire report. It is fairly lengthy, and I will answer any questions if members have any questions. No?
No questions?
Okay.
It further resolved that upon conclusion of council's review and consideration, that council authorizes the mayor and chief administration officer to enter into the municipal fire protection agreement with Her Majesty the Queen in the right of Ontario, as represented by the Minister of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources and Forestry, for a period of 5 years, commencing April 1st, 2022, and ending on March 31st, 2027. All in favor? And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Campanello, seconded by Councillor Rolla. Resolved that council is in receipt of administration report ADM 2022-08 submitted by Jolene Keogh, Chief Clerk, regarding voting methods for 2022 municipal elections.
Thank you, through the chair. As council is aware, we're in a municipal election year. We're going to be conducting the election on October 24th, 2022. After some review and research, Florence and I have looked at the different options that are available for alternative methods of voting. We have determined that, as in the recommendation, looking at having internet and telephone voting. Now, with COVID being present, we're not sure where we will be at in October, what that will look like. So this would allow us to provide accessible voting opportunities for all residents, and we will be looking at putting up kiosks for any of the residents that still would like to do in-person voting. And so if council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
As for the kiosk voting, what do you mean by that? Do you mean there will be like a computer set up that they will vote?
Yes, so what we would have is kiosks set up, and again, it would be similar to a polling booth. So they would still have privacy. They would come in and we would them in doing their voting. So whether they wanted to do it through telephone or they wanted to do it on the internet, we can provide that assistance to them. So guide them through the steps on how to do it, but of course, in privacy, they can do their actual vote.
Okay, so now the advantage of that would be as soon as the voting is done, we have instant results.
Yes. So, pardon me, we would end up having almost instantaneous results. They say up to 10 minutes, but as the votes are coming in, it's calculated within their system, and those results are presented to us.
Any other questions?
Through the chair, more of a statement than a question. I just think it's a great idea to allow others and, some people that aren't able to go out and physically vote. It's just a great option, in my opinion. Thank you.
And through the chair, I agree that it's a great option. And are you yet recommending a company we're going to hire for this?
Yes, through the chair, we had received 2 quotes. We had requested 3, and so we had received 2 back. So after reviewing both the quotes that we received, quantitative calculation, not only was a determination made based on the price, but on what they're able to provide to us. So researching both of those companies, Seidel has come through as being very reliable. They have conducted multiple elections in Ontario and globally. They also, in the 2018 election, they assisted another vendor with finishing their election. So they ended up having some difficulties, and Seidel stepped in and not only provided the election for their clients, but also assisted another vendor for 52 municipalities that were having issues. So they definitely have proven that they're able to provide a successful election.
And through the chair, we've talked to municipalities that have hired this company. The last election was 2018, so
Yes.
we're looking at 4-year-old information. And everything.
That's correct, but they do conduct elections globally. So it's not just Ontario, but across Canada as well as in the United States and other countries abroad. So having reviewed and talked to different colleagues, a lot of municipalities are opting to go with Seidel because of the reliability, the security that they provide. So majority of municipalities are switching.
And be it further resolved that upon consideration of council's review, conclusion of council's review and consideration, that council authorizes voting by internet telephone for the 2022 municipal and school board elections, and further that council authorizes entering into an agreement with Cyril to provide internet telephone voting, and further that council authorizes pre-budget approval for the operating cost of the 2022 municipal and school board elections. All in favor? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Rolla, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Resolved that council is in receipt of administration report ADM 2022-09 submitted by Florence McLean, CAO, regarding personnel policies.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Only 2 personnel policies for you this evening. The clothing policy and the protection of employee privacy policy. So the clothing policy for our union employees is really spelled out in the collective agreement. But one thing that we are adding is the ability for our staff who work in the field and who require protective footwear, that they also be allowed a boot allowance and on an as-needed basis, not necessarily on an annual basis. And in my report, I did mention that there are no financial implications, but that is an error. There would be financial implications by offering the boot allowance to non-union staff, and that amount at the maximum would be $1,500 a year. So that would be the financial implication. With regard to the second report, the protection of employee privacy policy, this follows very closely with the freedom of information policy. So not only protecting personal information about employees, but also identifying when and how that information can be released to the public or to the employee themselves. And so these two policies, upon Council's review and approval, would be added to the personnel binder.
Any questions?
Yeah. The main question I have, the Chair, is the $1,500 said is that total or per employee?
No, that would be total. So we would offer the same that we offer our union employees, would be $300 a year. That would be the maximum, but there are some employees who don't wear their protective footwear on a daily basis, and they may only require boots every couple of years. So.
And be it further resolved that upon conclusion of Council's review and consideration that Council approves Personnel Policy Number 2021-11, the clothing policy, and further that Council approves Personnel Policy Number 2021-45, the protection of employee privacy policy. All in favor? Moved by Councilor Moffat, second by Councilor Scampanello. Resolved that Council is in receipt of Administration Report ADM 2022-10 submitted by Florence McLean, CAO, regarding the Northern Ontario Resource Development Support Fund, Ontario Transfer Payment Agreement.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. We're pleased to advise that the province, through the Ministry of Northern Development and Mines, Natural Resources and Forestry, has introduced a new program called the Northern Ontario Resource Development Support Fund, or NORDS that they're calling it. And each municipality in Northern Ontario is provided with an annual allocation for a period of 5 years. The Township of Manitouwadge allocation is approximately $94,000 a year, and that funding became available to us in 2021. We weren't advised about the funding until the end of 2021, so we were allowed to either use it to offset project costs that we had already completed, or carry it over into the 2022 fiscal year. So that is what we have done, and we are looking at projects that we can, where we can utilize the funds. Eligible projects would include infrastructure that gets wear and tear from resource development, such as our roadways, sewer and water infrastructure. And so we are looking at right now our budget and for 2022 and what capital projects we will undertake in the year, and we will consider using this money or again carrying it over into 2023 if we want to do a larger roads project. The province has provided us with a transfer payment agreement, which we have to enter into. So this report is to request council to authorize the approval to sign the agreement.
Free money. And be it further resolved that upon conclusion of Council review and consideration that Council authorizes the Mayor and Chief Administration Officer to sign the transfer payment agreement with Her Majesty the Queen in right of Ontario, as represented by the Minister of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources and Forestry, for administration of the Northern Ontario Resource Development Support Fund. All in favor? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Rolla, being a bylaw to authorize an agreement with Her Majesty the Queen in right of Ontario, as represented by the Minister of Ontario Development, Mines, Natural Resources and Forestry, for municipal forest fire management be read a first and second time. And further be read a third time, passed and numbered as bylaw number 2022-08. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Rolla, seconded by Councillor Moffat, being a bylaw to authorize the Ontario Transfer Payment Agreement with Her Majesty the Queen in right of Ontario, as represented by the Minister of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources and Forestry, be read a first and second time, and further be read a third time, passed and numbered as bylaw number 2022-09. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Campanello, seconded by Councillor Roll, being a bylaw to authorize the use of internet and telephone voting as an alternative voting method for the 2022 municipal election, be read a first and second time, and further be read a third time, passed and numbered as bylaw number 2022-10. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Campanello, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Township of Manitowise at its meeting held on Wednesday, February 9th, 2022, be read a first and second time, and further be read a third time and passed and numbered as bylaw number 2022-11. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Roll, resolved that the regular meeting adjourn at the hour of 7:41. All in favor?